to Get Real with Estiel, a woman empowerment podcast hosted by Estiel Albaba. Hello and welcome to another episode of Get Real with Estiel. Today is Monday, March 5th, 2018. Welcome to another episode. I'm really excited to be sharing with you what I've prepared today, which is extracted from the book written by John Maxwell, How Successful People Grow. If you recall, I actually shared the first chapter of this book called Be an Intentional Learner not too long ago. I can't remember the exact date I published it, but it's really interesting because this is a small book that's very handy. It has really interesting ideas that you will start seeing repeatedly in different books if you get into the self-help and self-improvement books per se. So that's what I'm starting to notice. Like the more you read and delve into this topic, you are going to see that more or less a lot of the authors like John Maxwell, Napoleon Hill, whatever books you read, they share similar ideas. They just pretty much portray them differently because their experience is then what shaped these ideas into fruition, and that's where they're sharing their thoughts from. But more or less, you're going to start seeing repetitive things, which only drives the points further in our lives. And that's important because you need to reinforce these habits and these thought processes constantly in order for them to be working. So today I thought I will continue sharing from that book. I never do things chronologically, I think the word is, which means like if I started a book, it's not like I'll focus on that book and do it until it's done. I just share whatever is timely or whatever's going through in my life at that point, because I want to be as real and as authentic as possible. So I always, share things as they come. So today's chapter is called Developing a Self-Awareness, because you must know yourself to grow yourself. It's just as simple as that. So if you really put yourself at a higher level and you really want to be a successful person, leaving behind an admirable legacy, whatever that legacy may be, then it really starts by knowing who you are. So that includes growing your potential, because you must know your weakness, your strength, your interests, opportunities, what moves you in life, what drives you, and what stalls you, your habits, all that should be clear to you with time so that you can refine it as you go. So there's, if we step back and we look at people, they just fall into three categories. That's the majority of the people. I'm sure there's exceptions always. I always stress that point that we humans are too complex to just fit in categories and labels. There's always going to be exceptions beyond these categories. But these are the ones that I can think of and that were also mentioned in this chapter. And I can't think of any other ones in that specific context. And they're talking about people who, the first category being people who don't know what they would like to do. And they're just pretty much lost in life. And I don't even think that these people care to know what they want to do. So they're just simply confused. They lack a strong sense of purpose. And they don't have a sense of direction, obviously, because if you don't know where you're heading, how would you have a direction to get there? So I guess this category could be further split into two. People who don't know where they're heading and don't care to know where they're heading. But there's also people who don't know what they're heading, but really want to figure it out. So there's that earning desire that, even though I don't know the answers, I would like to figure them out. And they put the effort to do so. So that category can then further be split into these two subcategories in it. And then you have category number 2, people who know what they would like to do, but simply don't do it. Now, there's, I would even think about 2 subcategories for this one, but these people are usually frustrated because every day they're pretty much watching the gap between where they are and where they want to be, simply because they know where it is that they want to be at, and they're constantly feeling frustrated as this gap is being witnessed in their life day and day again. Now, I would just like to warn you against something here from my own personal reflection. We generally are all working towards goals in our life, and as we're working towards them, there's generally going to be gaps until we get to them. So if we're constantly feeling frustrated that we're not at where we want to be, that's a dangerous thing to fall into, because every goal requires patience for it to be materialized into our lives. Especially, this is very profound for millennials, I would say, because we're known to be the kind of generation who have no patience, who feels that, the second you think of something, or the second you feel that you want something, then you should have it shortly after. When in reality and in life, certain things require a lot of work, and certain things just come with time and persistency and consistency. So, this is not to, this particular category that was referred to in the chapter are people who are not necessarily doing anything about it. So they know where they want to get to, but they're not doing anything about it. And that's why they're feeling super frustrated, and internal conflicts are arising within themselves on a daily basis as a result of that. So these were, if I was to think of the subcategories, I would be telling you, for this specific genre, is that the people who are not doing anything about it at all means they're not even taking baby steps towards their goals. They're just simply thinking about what it is they want to be doing, but they're not putting any of these thoughts in action. Versus the other subcategory, where they are putting work in action, but it's just a slower work, and because it's taking time to be materialized in their life, their frustrations are also growing. So that exists as well. The third group are people who know what they would like to do, and they're simply doing it. These are the kind of people who are just filled with purpose, motivation, energy. You can tell the glow on their faces. They're focused, and they're just fulfilled. So it's just great to see that it's really amazing when you come across people in this category. You can see it right off the bat from their energy and the way they conceive themselves. And you just really have to know who you are in order to grow yourself and become part of this specific category. Because if you are truly fulfilled, then you are authentically living your purpose. And it's not just you've adopted a purpose just so that you can call it as such. So I really want you to reflect on the categories that I just went through. So the category of people who don't know what they want, and either are interested in figuring it out or not, and people who know what they want, but they're not doing anything about it, or people who know what they want and are simply doing it. So if you were to put yourself in one of these categories, which one would it be? And also, if you can create your own subcategory within these categories, then feel free to reflect on that and refine your current situation. Because it's important to know where you're starting from. I always stress the importance of having that realistic lens shed light on reality as is. So to get moving from that, obviously next steps would be for us to find our purpose and passion, and that is really a challenging thing. And my personal opinion is that your purpose and passion is not necessarily something that's static. It could be dynamic, and it could change as you personally change and grow in your life. But one thing I really reflect on, I'm 28 today, but if I was to reflect on the different career choices I had in my mind to pursue throughout, when I was in middle school, high school, and then university, and then early adulthood, we always ask ourselves, what is it that we're meant to do? Well, at least I did. I'm not sure if you did, but I certainly was the kind of person who asked myself a lot of these questions, even at a young age. Who am I? What's my purpose? What is it that I'm really brought to this world to do? And I truly spent a lot of time thinking about these questions, and realistically, I still do, because the answer could could evolve and change every day. And that's fine. I think that's how it should be, because you're learning more about yourself every day, or at least I hope you are. If I was to reflect on the things that came to my mind, like, yes, astronaut was one of them, but really the majority were in the area of service. I wanted to work for the UN, I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted to be a teacher. Like, these are things that were always something that were coming to my mind while I was thinking and navigating through career choices. And that's not to say that means I'm just lost and I have no idea where I'm going. That's to say that if I step back and I look at all these career choices that were potential thought processes I went through, the underlying theme of them all is to serve humanity and to make this world a better place. So ultimately, there's a theme behind all these different career options that came to my head. It's not like I wanted to be a lawyer one day and then like a manager the other, and then like a cook, or then like a ballet dancer. Like, they were all in the same genre per se. So while I had the thought, I always thought I was a very lost, confused child. I truly did, especially when it came to my purpose and to my passion and discovering what it is. Once I was able to step back and reflect on everything that came to my mind, I realized that I simply have the desire to serve and the passion for people. I truly get fulfilled by inspiring and motivating others. So while I can find different careers in which I can have this particular impact in the world, as long as I'm working with people and as long as I'm making a difference in someone's life, I'm going to be fulfilled, because that's ultimately my purpose. So that's another way of looking at it, because your purpose and your passion is not necessarily defined by a job title. It's not necessarily defined by a university degree that you pursue. Your person and your purpose and your passion are ultimately who you are. And who you are is what you're born with. And even if it takes you time to cultivate that answer for yourself, just be patient and immerse yourself in experiences and around people that can help you get closer to that answer. So I just wanted to offer you this personal reflection, because even recently, I was competing in a public speaking competition, and I spoke on that, and I even called my speech From Lost to Profound. And I spoke a lot about how I grew up thinking I'm lost and feeling that I'm lost, because a lot of people around me told me I'm lost as well. They were just, telling me how I feel, or I just keep bringing up new ideas about things I want to pursue without necessarily pursuing any of it. But that's natural when you're like in high school or in university. You're just really just an idea machine. You're popping ideas, just thinking what your next steps would be. And then I realized that I am living my passion, I am living my purpose, and that's simply because of an interaction I had with a woman on a bus, a stranger, a complete stranger who approached me and shared some words with me, and really made me realize it was a very big, profound moment in my life where I realized that I am living my purpose, because my purpose is to make this world a better place and to continuously serve. And ultimately, when I realized that I was doing that already, I then realized it doesn't matter what job title I have or what degree I pursue. It's just who I am as a person. So that was just a side note, but to get back into this chapter, so how to find your purpose and passion, I'm going to give you some specific tools that were shared, because it all depends on how we can then put these ideas into practice. Otherwise, there's no point talking about great ideas in the world if we can't really bring them to fruition and materialize them in our lives. So some stuff I want you to think about. These are some of my questions that will simply start moving you in the right direction. They'll help you target and eventually fine-tune your growth while understanding that this is an ongoing process for the rest of your life. It's not like you're going to get to a point and be like, okay, now I've achieved all the growth I want to achieve and, life is good. That's, if you're somebody who cares about growth, then it's never stopping. So the first question is, do you like what you're doing now? This is a time for you to just sit there and reflect on what it is you're actually doing. What's your job like? What is consuming your time? What are you actually engaged in as far as your daily tasks are concerned? And I'm personally amazed by how many people I meet who simply don't like what they're doing. I also meet a lot of clients because I'm a financial planner, so I meet a lot of clients that are closer to retirement as well. And even when they reflect on their career path, it was just simply a job that they wanted to pay the bills for, not necessarily something they wholeheartedly pursued out of passion or love, for that matter. So if you really care about having a life of passion, then it is certainly something that I'd like you to reflect on. Do you like what you're doing right now? Take that time to think about that question and write down your thoughts, because it can help you put them in perspective. The second question is, what would you like to do? Because you will never fulfill your destiny doing work you despise. It's as simple as that. Passion just gives you energy, and passion gives you advantage over others. If you're in a company or you're an entrepreneur or you're doing whatever it is you're doing, if you have the passion for it, you're ahead of the game. So that's why a lot of people sometimes enter an already very congested field. Let's say the health and wellness field right now is very congested with all sorts of, brands and like so much stuff going on in that department. And whenever a new person wants to enter it and contribute to it in their own way, some of the feedback they may be getting is like, this is an area that's already very saturated. Why is it that you want to put yourself in it? But if that person truly has the absolute passion for it and they're able to offer something no one else has already, or they're able to maybe make whatever is existing even 10% better, then they're going to be successful in that field. So I never look at a field if it's saturated or not. I truly look at the potential of that person. Are they passionate and have what it takes to make it in the world, because that's truly their calling? And if so, then it doesn't matter which field they enter, saturated or not, as long as they have the passion and they do what they're liking to do. So that's another question to think about, because once you tap into your passion, there's something called the E&E factor, which is the energy and excellence factor. Once you're tapping into that passion, you are delivering results that no one else is, because the passion is truly what's bringing your deliverables up to an excellent level. So that's truly something I would like everybody to experience. Mediocrity is really draining. It's just dull. Why would you want to live your life in that sense? You do want to excel and you do want to be recognized for it in this world. So take some time to think about these questions. What would you like to do? So the third question, can you do what you would like to do? So it's not just like, I would like to, let's say, be a singer, but clearly I don't have the talents. Well, not clearly because I haven't sang for you yet. But I'm telling you, I do. I do not have the talent. I've been told numerous times by my siblings and reminded constantly that I do not have the voice or the talent to sing. And that's okay. I do have the voice to record a podcast, so that's what matters. For me, at least. So, can you do what you'd like to do? And that's really one of the main keys to being successful, because it's understanding your unique talents and then bringing your talents to fruition in your life, bridging the gap between what you're good at, what you're skilled at, what really makes you different, and also what you like. If you think about it, I would feel that the sweet spot, if you were to visualize with me here, 3 circles. One circle is your talents and your skills. Another circle is your passion. And the third circle is what's needed in the world. And once these 3 circles overlap, there's that small sweet spot right in the middle. I think that's your ultimate aha moment. That's like what you really need to be doing in this world. The intersection of your skills and talents and knowledge and all that technical stuff with your passions and intuition, plus what the world is needed, what's in demand, what can create a market for you. And that sweet spot is really ultimately something worth pursuing. So if you can spend some time also thinking about these 3 circles I just mentioned and the intersection of them, I can't think of a better tool to give you to kind of start brainstorming for yourself. And trust me, just a side note here, just because you have the tool or whatever tools I provide you with any of these episodes really does not mean that this is going to be an overnight type of success for you. It really requires a lot of work, and it's constant work in progress. And just because you find certain answers today does not mean that these answers are, like I said at the beginning of this episode, they're not static. We are constantly evolving, and so are our passions with us. So just be patient with yourself and enjoy the process. It's a fun thing to constantly want to figure yourself out and reflect on what you're contributing to this world. So the 4th question is, do you know why you want to do what you'd like to do? I love Simon Sinek, who has a book called Start with the Why, because the why ultimately is the incubator for everything. Because it's important to ask yourself why you want to do certain things. Because the bigger your why is, the stronger your mission is. Then when things are rough and things aren't working towards your benefit, you're going to remember why you started to begin with, and you're going to find that energy to keep going. When you do things for the right reason, it just gives you that inner strength. But when you're doing them for the wrong reasons, then the second an obstacle appears in your way, you're more likely to give up right there and then. So if you can reflect on certain times where you persevered, reflect on where did that energy of that perseverance come from versus the time where you gave up, and then you realize the times you persevered were times where you truly cared about whatever it is you persevered for. And the times you give up, you didn't care at all. That's why one of my favorite quotes, I'm such a quote person, so I quote a lot of things because I just love it. And it says, you never know how strong you are until being strong is your only option. You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only option. So for example, if a mother is all of a sudden found herself in a situation where she needs to, let's say, take care of her kids because now she's a single mother, or let's say they're going through war, or whatever the case is, the mother is going to find unbelievable strength, unbelievable level of commitment and passion and drive because her kids' lives depend on it. I've personally been through a situation like that, and I've seen my mom persevere through situations that I wouldn't have imagined her being able to handle on her own, but she found the strength to do it. She found the purpose to do it because our lives as her kids depended on it. So her why was her kids, and her why was strong enough to help her persevere and go through whatever obstacles we've been through as a family. So find your why and keep yourself reminded of it so that when days get tough, because they will, you will have that inner strength to keep going and to build that positive, hopefully relationships around you to also support you on your mission. The 5th question, do you know what to do so that you can do what you want to do? So do you know what to do so you can do what you want to do? So to move from what we're doing right now to what we want to be doing, it really helps for us to kind of understand exactly, it's not just the passion, to start boiling it down into practical words. So there's a few things that were shared in this book that can help you put it in perspective. The first is awareness, because obviously you cannot change direction if you aren't aware where you're headed. We've already spoken about that. The second would be action, and that's really about putting these theories into practice, because you cannot win if you don't start doing something. Even if you're doing it and failing at it, it's better than just thinking about it. So go ahead and really transform all these thoughts into action-oriented items so that you're actually moving forward, not just being stalled. Then you have accountability, because few things prompt a person to follow their plan, and that's accountability. So whether it's an accountability partner, or whether it's, let's say you have bills that are due and you're accountable for certain things and you just have to start putting things in action, then that's really something you need. And the last is attraction, because if you want to be around people that are growing, become a growing person yourself. Because if you're committed, you attract people who are also committed. If you're growing, you're attracting people who are growing. If you're passionate, you're attracting people who are passionate. The law of attraction is something I totally believe in. And I do believe in surrounding yourself with people who are successful and people who you look up to and admire as well. So absolutely think about that question. Do you know what to do so you can do what you want to do? Because if you don't know what it is you want to do, how are you going to figure it out elsewise? The sixth question, do you know people who do what you'd like to do? Because a lot of the strength that we can find along the way comes from finding people who are already doing it and ahead of us, and then we can learn from them. So find mentors and find friends and find peer groups as well. Mentors are ahead of you, so you kind of learn from them, but also peer groups are important because you're walking this journey together, and it's important to have the perspective and the help from both. So whether you find mentors directly that you're working with on a face-to-face or even over the phone basis, or even find mentors in books and in things that you read. And there's so many things that you can absolutely find in the wisdom of these, the words that were shared by these mentors in the field of what you want to do. So if you want to be a really top chef in this world, then maybe you can start watching, let's say documentaries about chefs who just have a unique legacy, or books of chefs, or their biography, and not just the recipes I'm talking about, but really their biography, how they made it, what obstacles they've had to overcome, and how did they overcome it. So find people that you look up to and surround yourself by them. And remember that you cannot get where you want to go on your own. We always need help and guidance from the people around us. So I really, really believe in that. The seventh question is, should you do what you'd like to do with them? So if you're someone who's dedicated to personal growth, you'll always be learning from many people in many places, because if you're committed, then you're constantly learning. Like whether you're listening to podcasts like this one, reading your own books, doing, your own courses, you're always kind of learning. But occasionally, you'll have the opportunity to also be mentored on an ongoing basis by an individual, whether that's in your company, or whether that's somebody you personally go out of your way to hire. You may come across an opportunity like that. So being mentored is definitely, like I said earlier in the previous question, certainly an area that requires, it's important for you to have in order to grow and push yourself even beyond your limits. But here's what I'd like you to remember. Every person who can help you is not necessarily the right person to help you. You must really pick and choose. So not because somebody's already doing what you want to be doing means they're the right person to kind of push you. Your goal is to find the right fit. So I recall a conversation once with somebody who was supposedly my mentor, and I was looking forward to some of their guidance, and I was really excited about having that opportunity, and I'm certainly grateful for it. But then it wasn't long before I was able to figure out that this person has a completely different set of perspective and values than I do, and therefore I cannot have them as a mentor. And even if I do have them as a mentor, I'm not going to be gaining much of that relationship, even though they are doing what I'd like to do myself. But that is not enough for them to be my mentor. So if I was to go back to that question, should you do what you'd like them? Should you do what you'd like to do with them? So in other words, are you really surrounding yourself by the right people and the right mentors? And there's a lot of different checklists that you have to go through and determine what's important for you in a mentor. You get to determine that on your own terms. No one's going to tell you whether it's right or wrong. It's really your own, it's your own beliefs and your own values per se. The 8th question, will you pay the price to do what you want to do? Obviously, it's going to come with a price. If I was to go back to the category number 2 about people who know what they want to do, but they're not doing it, that's because there's often a price associated with what it is that they want to do, and they're simply not willing to pay the price. So I just want to, put something in perspective here. There are certain times in life where we want to do certain things, but we're held back by responsibilities. So if you're a new mother, as an example, obviously, because you're taking care of your child and you may be on mat leave, your career aspirations are hindered for that specific period of time. So you know what you want to do as far as your career growth is concerned, but you're simply incapable of doing it because of the new commitment in your life of having children. Or on the other side, of you may be taking care of aging parents, as an example. So sometimes people are held back not because they're lazy or because they just don't know what to do and they're confused and frustrated, but maybe there's other life circumstances. It could be health issues as well. Like maybe somebody gets diagnosed with terminal illness or critical illness of some sort. So these are all exceptions that I just wanted to make sure I put them out there because I'm aware of them. We all go through them in different phases and different intensities. But what I try to say about will you be willing to pay the price is about people who just are not willing to give up free time. Like, they just want to watch Netflix, or they just want to take it easy, or they don't want to give up, let's say, their social life. They want to go party every weekend. And, there's certain goals that you may need to put more time and dedication in them in order to get to where you want to get. So my brother is in med school, and I use him as an example whenever I want to bring up light to dedication. Because, for anybody to make it to med school to begin with, let alone go through med school, they need to have a lot of discipline and, just pay the price. Sometimes it's going to be weekends that you can go out, and not sometimes, a lot of times actually, more likely than not, you're going to have to say no to certain social events that you really wanted to be part of. But these are the price that you're paying to invest in yourself and your career growth, being in med school. The 9th question, when can you start doing what you'd like to do? So put some timeline in perspective, because someday is just simply not good enough. If you can put a timeline for yourself, so if you are an aspiring entrepreneur and now you're working for a company, you can say, I'm going to start, building my entrepreneurial dream on the side, and my estimation is that I'll be able to fully sustain it on its own in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years. So this would be a timeline that you're kind of working towards. Because if you can't put time in perspective, then really what is it that you're working for? And the last question, what will it be like when you get to do what you'd like to do? I love this question because that's when you can sit back and let your imagination just flow. You take a deep breath and you visualize, what does that look like? How do you feel? How are you dressed? Where are you going? Who are you talking to? What's your financial situation like? Where are you living? What's your family like? Just sit there and visualize. What would it be like to do what you'd like to do? So, a lot of times, from putting things in perspective, if you ask people who've already achieved their level of successes, which are category number 3 that we've originally talked about, a lot of them will say, it's even better than they ever thought it would be. But the journey itself was more difficult. So ultimately, we have to expect a lot of obstacles in our way. So many things, especially if we're trying to do something out of the norm. Society itself will try to stop us. And sometimes with, well-intentioned, reasons, like our parents, our siblings, our, partners, they'll be like worried about our well-being and stability. So they want us to be happy. But if we're working towards something that's daring and risk-taking, and if these people around us are not daring or risk-taking, then they're always going to be trying to stop us from actually pursuing that. So I want you to reflect on all these well-intentioned advice that you get along the way, because it may be stopping you from truly pursuing your ultimate passions, but also reflect on how amazing it would be once you get to where you want to be. Have that visualizing tool, and if you can incorporate that visualization on a daily basis, that really will give you the consistency and persistency that's required to get to where you want to be in life. So all these 10 questions I just shared with you are questions that are meant to help you find your purpose. And I'll go through them again to recap what we've talked about here. But each of these questions require you to kind of go on a journey in itself just to find the answers for that question itself. It's not like you just go through these questions in like a 10-minute period. Sometimes it could take you days to figure out really the depth of just one question in itself. So, to develop self-awareness, because you need and you must know yourself in order to grow yourself. So these are some questions to help you give yourself self-awareness and find your passion. So the first would be, do you like what you're doing right now? What would you like to do? Can you do what you'd like to do? Do you know why you want to do what you'd like to do? Do you know what to do so you can do what you want to do? Do you know people who do what you'd like to do? Should you do what you'd like to do with them? Will you pay the price to do what you want to do? What can you start doing? When can you start doing what you'd like to do? And lastly, what will it be like when you can get to do what you'd like to do? I said that a lot. It almost started sounding like Scooby-Doo, but I didn't stumble across it, which is good. So I would leave you with that. I'm really passionate about that topic constantly because I always like to be introspective and think about my own life and where is it that I'm at and where is it that I'm heading. And sometimes you really, really benefit from surrounding yourself from people who are also asking themselves these questions as well. I believe so wholeheartedly that the power of a peer group that's the right peer group for you can do miracles. So please reach out to me if you have any questions, if there's any personal advice that I can share with you. I would love to do so. And it's been such a pleasure recording this podcast today on March 5th. I look forward to future episodes where we can learn, grow, and most importantly, get real together. Take care, everybody.